now we have our Red Sox expert. I don't know that I call you a Red Sox expert, Nick. Is that fair to say that you're a Red Sox? Why not? Yeah, why not? Nick Cafardo joins us.
You know, been around them enough.
I guess we could call you a Red Sox historian / correspondent because you've been around the team for such a long time. And we want to ask you about the Red Sox offseason agenda. It seems to be busy. It seems to be backed with substantial payroll because they shed a lot of it during a disappointing championship campaign or championship defense campaign. Let's talk about who might be on the trade target watch for them. Starting pitching, one would imagine.
Yeah, starting pitching is definitely a place. Cole Hamels, I think I've been mentioning him for months now, as a possibility for the Red Sox. They definitely have the package of young players that the Phillies would want. And the Phillies, I'm telling you, I've been doing this for 30 years. I've never seen a team scout another team more than the Philadelphia Phillies scouted the Red Sox, both at the major league level and the minor league level. It was almost every single series. And I've never seen such saturation by a Phillies scouting staff. So something's got to give there, I think. I'm sure they've discussed things already. But so that's definitely one guy. Samardzija, I think, would be a guy too. The Red Sox tried to obtain him from the Cubs. They did have some talks there at one point. The Cubs wanted Boston's top pitching prospect, Henry Owens. In return, the Red Sox said no. And but now that he's with the Oakland A's, obviously the Red Sox and A's definitely have a history of trading with each other, so they seem to be able to work things out.
Hey, I got to ask you, Nick, if I'm a Red Sox fan, I'm sitting there going, all right, a couple of years ago, the model was we got rid of all the big money and we put together a club of dirt dogs, so to speak. Are they looking to do that again?
I think they're going to try to do that, but I'm not sure they're going to be able to succeed. I think after that 2012 horrible season, it was kind of the perfect storm. I've never seen a GM hit on 7 free agents as well as Ben Cherington hit on those guys. It was almost like hitting 400 for a hitter. It was just an amazing performance. I don't think we'll see it again. But he really has to do something similar to that this offseason. Not quite to that extent, but he needs, let's face it, 2 starting pitchers, a third baseman who can hit left-handed. He needs another setup lefty, probably an Andrew Miller. And he needs a backup catcher who can hit left-handed. So those are the issues he's got to deal with, and he has to deal with them either through free agency, and again, he has a lot of chips of young players that he can trade to teams that need to lower their payrolls.
My ears perked up when you said third baseman who can hit left-handed. What about a third baseman that switch hits? I'm talking about Pablo Sandoval.
Those are good too.
That's pretty good. Well, where are they at with Pablo?
Yeah,
we keep hearing him and the Red Sox together. Can you give us some clarity here?
Well, yeah. I mean, his agent will be here. They've already talked quite a bit on the phone. Pablo's possible teams to go to, I think, are fairly limited. I don't think he's got a huge market out there, but he has enough of a market where the money's going to get up there. The big decision for the San Francisco Giants, they have to overlook the weight thing. They've been dealing with this weight thing for years and years and years. And before this postseason started, they weren't going to commit more than 3 years to this guy. So now once again, he's had a great postseason, and he's a much better postseason player than he is a regular season player. They now have to up the ante. So we'll see how far they go, and then we'll see how far a team like the Red Sox go. I think they're willing to go 5 years on him at $100 million because he's a 28-year-old guy who's going to be in the prime years of his hitting. So I think they're willing to do that. So he has a very good rapport with David Ortiz, who spoke to him at length at the World Series. So I think the Red Sox are definitely in play with that.
Yeah, I like the way you phrased that, Nick, talking about enough of a market. And I guess that would be defined by having 2 suitors, one his current place of employment or previous place of employment, each of which has significant money to spend. But let's take you to a guy that's on the roster in Boston right now. And none of us thought Yoenis Cespedes would be traded a year and a half before his expiration date in Oakland. The Red Sox have him for another year on this existing deal. Are we led to believe that maybe they'd explore options in moving him again?
Yeah, there are a lot of issues with the Yoenis Cespedes with the Red Sox. First and foremost is the contract. He changed agents from the Wasserman Group, I believe, to Rock Nation. And Rock Nation tends to, want to take guys to free agency, much like Scott Boras does. So the Red Sox probably need to know this offseason whether they can sign him or not. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is they want him to play right field. They think his arm plays better out in right field, that he can cover more ground out there where he's a little bit confined in left field with a wall. And they kind of presented that to him, and he did not play one game in right field, after they had obtained him. So I think where his head is at there. So then you have Alan Craig playing right field where he should be playing left field. So that's an issue. That's a problem for them. Also, he got a lot of big hits when he came to the Red Sox. He gave some game-winning home runs. But overall, his numbers weren't stupendous. They weren't great. He's still a threat in the middle of that order. But at some point, if they get wowed by somebody, especially for a pitcher, I think they might do it.
Wow! If I was Rock Nation, and I got Yoenis Cespedes playing in Boston at Fenway, I'm doing everything I can to keep him in that ballpark.
Yeah, I hear you.
I make any sense.
I agree.
Same thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's formidable if you can talk about adding a Pablo Sandoval. Just to button things up, Nick, we put up a list. I'm not sure if you saw a monitor there, but when you were talking about Pablo Sandoval, we put up a list of players to get at least one start at third base with the Red Sox. And more so than the number of bodies, which is certainly eye-catching, for me it's the fact that Will Middlebrooks led the charge here by playing fewer than 60 starts at that position. I know he was hurt a lot. I know he went back down. But not only were there a lot of guys, but nobody really grabbed it at all last year.
They wanted so much for Will Middlebrooks to take this job and run with it and keep it for 10 years, He just hasn't been able to do it. He's 26 years old now, but they're not going to give up on him, I'm told. They're going to, if they have to, they'll keep him at AAA and hope that that great power he has eventually comes out. Brock Holt is another interesting guy, a guy that they use as their super utility guy. But third base, unfortunately, is not his best position. He's much better at second and in the outfield than he is at third. So, that's another issue. And that's why, and also Garen Cecchini, I forgot him. He's a kid who has a fiery kid who has a nice stroke the other way. Some people compare him to Wade Boggs, but certainly not, of that caliber, obviously, or else he'd be the third baseman. But so they have those options, but really, they really need a left-handed power bat in that lineup because they're very, very right-handed throughout the lineup.
Hey, last question, Nick, before we let you go. A lot of people wondering about John Lester. And there was a lot of talk when he got traded. Oh, Lester's leaving the window open. He's going back to Boston. What are you hearing about that?
I think it would help Boston if the Yankees were not involved. And we keep hearing that the Yankees aren't going to go after all of these big-name pitchers, and I'll believe that when I see it. So if they're not in it, it makes it a little bit easier for the Red Sox to maybe make a good offer to John Lester. But don't forget who else is out there. It's the Chicago Cubs and Theo Epstein, who loves John Lester. So their bid could get pretty high to the point where the Red Sox say, just walk away from it. I know that their big target's James Shields. They really like him. They feel they can get him for a cheaper price in less years. The years are the thing that they really are trying to shy away from, the 6-7 year deals.
That's interesting. We're not as tapped into the Red Sox as you are. I had not heard the Red Sox and Shields link before this moment. Something we'll keep our eyes on moving forward. Nick Cafardo from the Boston Globe, our Red Sox correspondent, joining us from the GM meetings at the Biltmore in Arizona. Nick, thanks for the chat this morning.